You're listening to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast, celebrating hunting dog heritage, competition, and community. United Kennel Club has been the hunting dog sports home for coonhounds, beagles, retrievers, pointers, cur, feist, and more for over 125 years.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast. I'm Trevor Wade. I'll be hosting today. I'm the Coonhound Program Manager here at UKC, and I'm joined by the Director of Hunting Ops, Alan Gingrich. What's going on, Alan?
Well, it's another nice day here at UKC in Kalamazoo, so I just got back from lunch again, and man, it's too nice to be working here today.
Yeah.
Too nice outside.
This week, finally, it feels like spring a little bit, doesn't it?
It feels so good out there. It's like the perfect day again.
Yeah. Yeah, so hunting's a little slowed down a little bit now that the season's kind of out here, at least on public land anyways. But you had a big weekend. You went to a sale, right?
Yeah, I did a little thing on the side here the last couple of weeks, actually. This weekend I'm doing another one, so yeah, I'm having a little fun with that.
Yeah,
doing a little bid spotting for
good.
Yeah,
that's awesome. You can see some big money auctions. That stuff is always interesting me. I've never been to one though. I guess.
Yeah.
I guess probably the St. Jude's probably the biggest one I've ever been to. But
yeah, the other thing that I see at some of these events you're talking about, a couple of them that I did were some larger horse sale auctions or what have you, and I was one of the bid spotters. But they have their registration associations or what have you. Their registries are also in attendance at a lot of those bigger ones.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of cool to see a lot of the similarities between that and our dog registry and things like that. I try to pick up some things, here and there for it. No different than cattle associations or cattle registries as well, So it's kind of cool to see some of that.
Yeah, learning
and see what other registries do, just like the horse industry, for instance, So it's cool.
Yeah, very neat. I didn't think about that aspect of it. But
hey, they do some really nice stuff, some cool things, but we also do some things better than they do. You can always learn from different venues like that.
Sure, absolutely. Well, today we haven't talked about rules in a while, and today I don't know if it's necessarily a rule, but it's something that we field a lot of calls on. Probably not just for coonhounds, but probably in your rabbit and squirrel segments and all segments really. And it's talking about entering your dog into events.
Yeah, and it applies across the board. You're right, for all of our different formats.
And a lot of them are going to be really similar to this, especially the ones that are in kind of the hound and handler formatted events, similar to ours. But, we get a lot of questions about conditional entries and entering if you don't have your easy entry card, or what do you do if you don't have puppy papers, or even some more specific things like that. So we're going to talk about that here to start off the show.
Yeah, and things are a lot more customer-friendly than they used to be back in the old days, really. I can remember I went to Autumn Oaks, didn't have my easy entry card with me, had my dog entered and everything, did not have my easy entry card. Guess what? Todd Kellum was standing there shaking his head, can't take my entry. So I know how that feels, and I went to qualifiers before where I didn't have anything, just got turned away, So the conditional entry replaces all that.
Made life a lot easier for the hunters, huh?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, it sure is.
Absolutely. Well, hey, the first thing, in our rule book, there's a whole section. It's actually titled "Entering Your Dog," in UKC licensed events. And the first caveat it has on there, it just tells us that only UKC registered coonhounds can enter into the licensed coonhound events. I made just a few small notes. Something that I get calls on sometimes: can cur and feist compete in the coonhound events? No, they cannot. They have their own events.
They do. Now, they can in conjunction with, as you know, curs can be hunted on squirrel. No, that's always done in the daytime in squirrel events. But curs can compete at night in a night hunt. We have separate titles, a night hunt title, just like for a coonhound, for curs, where clubs can have a cur hunt in conjunction with, but they hunt separately from the hounds.
Right. And a couple other notes. I'm just probably things that happen, and probably why it's in the rule book. I know when you read back through the history of the registry, talking about like the field trials, for instance, when those were popular back in the day, people entering like greyhounds or whippets or something in those.
Yep.
And so now the rule book tells us and constricts it only to UKC registered coonhounds to prevent those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first thing, what do we need to do what do we need to enter the event? What items do we need?
Three things. One is a registration certificate, which is not the most popular. That's a big thing. Most guys don't carry that in their vehicle. And we're talking about the dog you're entering, their registration certificate. The most common thing is the easy entry cards, little pocket-sized easy entry card that you carry in your wallet. Or number three, a picture of your easy entry card.
Yeah.
And that's the easiest thing. Then I would always suggest guys do that. You know, with our phones that we have today, it's so simple. Take a good picture just over the top of it and take a good photo of it, and you will always have that. And that is so easy. We see that more and more. But you can take, and that's a picture with your phone with that easy entry card. That's the easiest thing. You'll always have it on your phone. And we're going to talk about conditional entries here a little bit later, where if I'm running late and why picture my easy entry card on my phone is good for me to have.
Yeah. Hey, not only do you don't have to carry your easy entry card with you, get all scuffed up in your wallet or perhaps lost in your wallet somewhere or misplaced. Or maybe you leave it on the entry table on accident. There's a lot of things that can happen to a physical easy entry card. Taking a picture of it's a great alternative to avoid that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned conditional entry. Here we are already. Let's talk a little bit about conditional entry.
Can we back up one more point I want to make about why it is important that we have these? And I think we get a little sidetracked from this, and I know clubs get a little lax sometimes of requiring this if they don't have that. But this is what, if we didn't do this, require some kind of formal entry identification. When it comes to the reporting end of it, it would get so messy and muddy, and it's that's why we need accurate information so we can process these events reports, with no question. Make sure we have the right information on the dogs.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, we have instances pretty regular where somebody calls in, they don't have a win on the record, and we go, well, that's been processed. Let's take a look and see what happened. Pull up the report, the UKC number is just a little bit off, and then maybe they have the handler name there instead of the owner's name. Then when you go to search that dog in the system, no way you're ever going to find it. And it's just transpose one number on there can cause a big issue. That's why when you're writing down that number, take your time. When you're an entry taker, take that time when double checking it against that dog identification.
The UKC number of the dog is the most important part of that, but if that can be off, and mistakes happen,
Right.
we see it all the time. Night hunts happen at night. The official, it's easy for us to point fingers at the official. But if you're the guy sitting there at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning when just before deadline and filling out the reports of your winners, hey, you and I know how it is. We've been working just like those officials do most of the time. A lot of them have jobs, work all day long, and then sit there that late. Mistakes happen.
Sure they do.
But yeah.
Yeah, and so talking about conditional entries a little bit, which is kind of, I had a call. I was trying to think of what to make for a podcast topic. I actually had a call about conditional entries, and the guy was a little confused on what he was referring to, something that he thought was a conditional entry, but it wasn't. So let's talk about what conditional entries are. When do you pay that extra $5 conditional entry fee? And the way the rulebook tells you, it's basically whenever you have to enter the dog with an alternative form, or not having any form of identification for the dog. And what that means is maybe I just bought a dog from you and I'm entering it in my name and plan on sending the paperwork, and there could be an issue there with owners getting mixed up when we're processing the report, that type of deal. So a new owner entering a dog under previous owner's name with their registration certificate or easy entry card. The second thing would be entering the dog with no form of dog identification, which you just talked about a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got no easy entry card, no papers, no picture of the easy entry card. You got nothing there. You're just trying to remember the dog's name, and oftentimes that's when you may make a mistake on transposing a number.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing, and something that's relatively new over the past 5-6 years, is entering a dog on puppy papers, which is considered a conditional entry.
That actually entering a dog on puppy papers came right after we implemented a conditional entry in 2015. So we didn't talk about it right away, but as it turned out, we thought, hey, puppy paper, and we'll get into that a little bit later here, but yeah. So conditional entry, that takes up for, that makes up for what I was talking about, going to an event, you forgot it for whatever reason, don't have it, yada, yada, at least they're not going to turn me away, or they shouldn't. They can't, by rule, they can't turn me away just because I don't have anything. And really, I think we still hear it all the time where clubs sometimes, or officials sometimes, still think they have to show something, some little thing.
They're so trained that way.
I know.
And so used to that way.
And that is not true.
Right.
If somebody doesn't have anything, don't guess at anything. Just provide the most accurate information you can. And by providing it, we mean by writing that on your entry slip.
Yeah.
And if you don't take a guess at your dog's UKC number. That's a very important part, as we mentioned a little bit ago. But just if you don't know what it is, don't put anything there, and instead you might put conditional there on
Right.
that where it asks for the UKC number or CON. And yes, there's a $5 fee that goes along with it. And again, it's not about the money for that, but it's about making sure, after you do this 4 or 5 times, that $5 does add up. And hey, I need to have what I need here to make this, so I don't have to pay that extra. But that's just makes if we didn't have that, people would quit bringing their easy entry cards and registration certificates.
Yeah. Yeah. One instance that would field some calls and messages on is I send in my paperwork. I forget to take a picture of my papers or notate the UKC number somewhere. The dog's been permanently registered. I'm just transferring it into my name.
Yep.
And I go to hunt it in a hunt. I have no idea what the UKC number is. That's when I would tell them to put in the UKC number, just put conditional or pending. But keep track of where you got your win at, because there's a chance. Obviously, we're not going to be able to process a win for your dog if we don't have any sort of number there or the correct owner information. So that's whenever you got to take real good, keep good track and keep good notes of where your wins are, what the club was, what the date was. That way we can help you later down the line.
Yeah, and that's where the puppy papers things comes in as well. If you've sent your papers off to UKC to get the young dog permanently registered, you want to put him in a hunt. There's a hunt, you want to go to this week, you don't have your papers back. Hey, enter it as conditional. You can do that.
Right.
But there again, that's where you want to also keep tabs of if you did get a cast win or you won with your dog and you entered it in that manner, keep track of when and where that was, what club and the date. Just make a little note somewhere, because once you get your papers back, once you got the dog registered, you get them back, then call the hunting ops department, our department, and tell us the date and the club, and we'll go back to those reports, and we'll see that this dog was entered as conditional or pending registration and was not permanently registered yet. We'll go back and add those points.
Yeah, real simple. As long as if you have those dates and times, it makes it really easy.
Yeah,
the dates and club, it makes it really easy.
I think some folks think we automatically go back and put them once a dog's registered. You and I will never know when Todd Kellum has his dog registered.
Right.
That information doesn't come to us. We don't know that.
Yeah.
We depend on the owner to, once he's got his papers, make it their responsibility to call us.
Yeah. You mentioned a situation earlier, and honestly, this is the call that we get the most of, and it's talking about, hey, I was running late for the hunt this weekend. So I called my buddy, had him enter. He did a conditional entry for me, and they just referred to it that as like kind of a catch-all.
Yeah.
And that's not always a conditional entry, right? If I call you and have you enter my dog for me, I could easily send you a picture of my dog identification, and you could enter my dog for me unconditionally. It's just basically you're entering my dog, and I still have to get there. But that's not what we consider a conditional entry. But that is something that happens, and it could be conditional very easy if I just tell you my UKC number over the phone and have you enter the dog,
because I don't have anything to show them.
Yeah. So that's probably the instance where it's that terminology is used incorrectly the most.
Yeah, but that's exactly why I was talking about, a good thing to have it in your phone or whatever. If you're doing that, you can easily text that card to me and say, hey, can you enter my dog for me? And I have everything right here, and no problem, no different than you do. And it's just me doing it. I have everything I need.
While we're talking about entering dogs, and this isn't something that you'll find in the rule book, but I think it's a good thing to talk about because it's another thing that you hear a lot of questions on. And that's in that situation, whenever I'm calling you to have you enter my dog for me, I'm running behind. And the question I always get is, well, how long do I have after the deadline for me to need to be there? Obviously, whenever we answer those questions, it's hard to give them an exact answer because we don't know how long it takes them to draw cast. How many dogs did you have? How long is it taking to draw cast there? And it can get what I always tell them is you're kind of at the mercy of your cast. Once the casts are drawn and they meet your cast, if you're still not there, then any time that they wait for you is kind of just them being courteous. Is that right?
Well, it is, but we've taken that a step further. If you somebody else enters your dog because you were running late, we do give you until your cast is called, and if you're not there at that point, we say they should be scratched at that point.
Yeah,
we have that in writing. We've written about it in the advisor columns, and we've done that since 2015 as well.
Right.
It gives you a little bit of a grace period, but don't expect them your cast to sit there and wait on you.
It's not buying you 30 minutes or an hour.
Not necessarily. It might buy you 5, 10, 15 minutes, but that may be about it.
Right.
But, yeah.
Yeah. And we've, when I'm talking to different people, sometimes there are instances where the water can be muddied a little bit. Maybe, I'm the event official. I'm an officer of the club. and we have 3 casts there, and I got 2 guides on hand. I got 1 guide that's running behind, and this guide is I entered his dog for him. He's going to be here shortly. We draw out casts, and he's the one that's not there. In that case, sometimes you have to kind of use your common sense there for that guy because we have to have that guy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and as a club and him being a club member and event official, I kind of have to. I can't burn that bridge because that's one of
Yeah.
our main
Yeah.
guides that we use. So there are instances where, you know, he's a host club, he's a guide, he couldn't make it there in time, but he is going to be hunting. He's all entered up, and he's going to be ready to rock by the time it's time to cut loose. So
Yeah, I think like you said, I think you need to be reasonable with some things like that. But if it's just a matter of somebody running behind, like me, just a regular participant, I'm not, I'm not. They haven't called me because they need me to guide a cast tonight or what have you.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's a little bit different. So
yeah, it's a little bit different circumstance, but something to plant the seed.
yeah,
Maybe.
absolutely. I think I don't think we want to get into great detail about this, but we ran into it a little bit at the regions where we talked about if somebody, their dog has to be there, when they're called out or what have you. That was totally different. I think that's probably another topic for the World Zones probably
Right.
later this fall that we'll talk more about that. But they were using this, what we're talking about, they were using this for that, but that wasn't really intended for that. And that had to do with sending casts to a satellite club or to some other location. That's not the same. We don't need those people here.
Right.
We're talking 2 different items here, 2 different things. But
Right.
it's something we'll talk about more before our World Zones come up this fall.
Yeah, I think we're probably going to work on some terminology on the way that those read.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, you mentioned this a little bit earlier. You went into a little bit more depth on the puppy papers, but let's just talk about that process of how it's outlined in the rule book, because there is a whole section talking about entering dogs that are not permanently registered yet. And when I say that, I could be talking about puppy papers or maybe pending single registration that you're doing with an ex crossbred dog with unknown lineage. But the way the rule book reads, the owner has 60 days from the date of the event to permanently register the dog for championship points or wins to be added to the dog's record. So there's a 60-day grace period. If you fail to register your dog within those 60 days, the owner will then incur a $50 charge to have those wins processed after the fact.
And that's just to get them to get your papers in. Don't just leave them laying in the drawer or whatever. Just not worry about getting your dog registered for 6 months or a year. Get it done. If you're going to enter the dog, put them in, participate with the dog. Yes, it's a customer friendly policy here. You can get the dog entered, but then also get your papers sent in.
Yeah.
Let's get the dog registered.
And we both know it. You may get a win, and you think you'll remember this win forever. But as time goes longer and longer, those details are going to get hazier and hazier. And there's nothing more frustrating just to be. You get a phone call from someone saying, "I'm missing a registered win somewhere." Like, well, all right, it was in 2021. Now 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was somewhere in Ohio.
Yeah.
And that person's frustrated on the phone. We're looking through tons of reports and we're not finding it. And it can just be a very tedious process. So just get it done, and it makes life much easier for everybody. And like you talked about, keeping good notes, keeping a good, keep your win slips from the clubs, do something, keep some kind of notation, take pictures of your scorecard, the reports, to keep track of the dates and the clubs where you're getting these wins at. Especially if your dog's not registered, you almost have to, because then when you get in touch with us, real easy, you can just say, "Hey, April 1st at the Kalamazoo Club, I got a cast win." We can easily pull up that report, get the win added for you. Simple, takes seconds.
Talking about win slips, some clubs aren't just automatically giving out win slips, but most of them should have that the little packet of win slips to give. If I really want one, this may be a good reason for me to make sure I get one. Just go ask them for one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, hey, if you're any clubs out there that need some of those, just get in touch with our hunting ops department. We can shoot you some out if you're running out.
They come in a little packet of
100
or something, like a little booklet, I guess. Yeah.
So let's move on to the next one, and this is another thing that can easily make you frustrated if it's done incorrectly, and that's making sure your dog's entered into the correct category.
Yeah.
Our policy is pretty strict when it comes to this. If you were to get a win outside of the correct category that your dog is supposed to be competing on based on its titles or its age, that win's considered illegitimate to us, and it won't count towards your dog's record.
Yeah, and that's tough for us to sometimes take those calls. Somebody thought they had, for instance, in a night hunt, they thought they had the 5 registered wins to make the dog a night champion, and we only show 4. And, they come in with a champion win. We'll process that win. assuming under the assumption that we're just missing one of the registered wins, but like I said, we'll go ahead and process it. But in the event that you did only have those 4 and didn't have 5, guess what? That champion win is going to be all for naught.
Yeah.
And that's by rule. Our hands are bound by the rule, and there's a reason for it. You can't just jump around to category. You've got to finish one before you move on up to the next one. But if that happens, that's going to be, like you said, a ineligible entry in that category.
That's right. And just some examples of that, if you're listening and you're kind of confused on what I may be talking about, that'd be like, I have a registered dog and accidentally put it in the champion category like you're talking about, or if I made my dog a night champion and unknowingly, I didn't realize I already had my 5 wins, and entering into another registered hunt, that 6th registered win isn't going to count towards my grand night champion degree now.
Exactly.
And even in the bench show, when you think about it that way, be sure you know your dog's date of birth and be able to calculate the way the classes are. Because if I show my senior black and tan in the junior class at a show, then that's an illegitimate win as well. It's in the wrong class. So got to be sure of all those things before going and entering a dog in a hunt or a show or any event. There's a little caveat in there that says neither UKC nor the host club are responsible for any mistakes made by or on behalf of the owner concerning the dog's degree. And basically what that tells us is it falls on the person entering the dog to make sure that their dog's entered in the correct category, class, division, whenever they're entering the dog. And just take your time, make sure you're in the right one. So let's talk about who competes against who at these events whenever you're entering into events. Our night hunt, field trial, and water race, the format of those events are all really similar. There's 2 different divisions or categories, however you want to talk about it. There's the registered, which have not yet accrued a title in that event, and then the champion division after you make, let's just take hunts for example, night champion, and the champion division would have both night champions and grand nights in it. The only there's a few exceptions. One, of course, Autumn Oaks, where the Grand Knights hunt alone. That they all hunt on Friday night at Autumn Oaks, and then the 7 chartered breed days. Some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them hunt their night champions and Grand Knights together. I think the Redbone guys do that at National Redbone Days, and a lot of them though they split their night champions and Grand Knights up in the hunt and also in the field trial and water race. Usually have bigger entries there and have the ability to do that. So that's how that works. And then talking about more specific events like slams, RQEs, zones, regions for the world, and TOC finals, all dogs draw out together there, regardless of your category, all that stuff. But that's not what we're talking about here. And then getting into the bench show side of it, again, there's bench shows are the same no matter what in a licensed bench show. You got your registered category where you go if you don't have a bench show title yet, where you'll be separated by your class, which is the age of your dog, by your breed, and then ultimately by your sex when you get to the show level. You'll be shown against just dogs of your own sex. And then there's the champion category for those that have made champion but not yet made grand. And then there's the grand champion category.
2 classes, and that's by sex, yep.
That's right. Males go against males and females in both the champion and grand champion category, so you're only shown against your own sex.
You'll see at some of the bigger shows, like you mentioned, Autumn Oaks, they will separate them even in the champions and grand champions by breed first. That's just because there are so many of them.
Right.
Break it down to 1 dog of each breed, and then they put those, those 7 dogs in there for the champion win and all this and that. But yeah. Otherwise, all males against males, females against females, regardless of breed or age.
Yeah. And then moving on to another part of the entry process, and that's multiple entries.
Yeah, that's a good one to talk about.
Yeah. So the way it works is in the night hunt, field trial, and water race, again, all very similar. Owners having multiple entries will have dogs drawn to separate cast or heats if it's a water race or field trial, if possible. Those are the 2 main words there, right? If possible.
Hey, and there's another good one I want to bring up, and another good reason why it's important to have that the entry, whoever's taking the entries, that they check those registration papers or the easy entry card for multiple owners on there, because any one of those owners, in Coonhounds anyways, any one of those owners is a part of that ownership, that multiple ownership. So sometimes, let's say you and I and Todd Kellum own a dog. I'm the first owner. I enter the dog. Oftentimes those guys might just put me down as the owner.
Right.
And guess what? You have also got a dog in the hunt. And now they would have no way of knowing, let's say you and I draw out together. Now we've got a problem. Well, it started with me not putting it on my entry slip. But number 2, the entry taker, if they were paying attention, they should have noticed it and probably put it made sure I put
on
it
your
down.
on your easy entry card. They would have saw all the owners.
They would have seen all the owners and make sure to put that on the entry slip so that doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And when we talk about how it must be, there must be enough dogs entered in to make it possible for you to split. I put down a couple examples just of this. Let's say we go to a local event here. They got 7 registered dogs in the hunt, and 2 of them are in my name. Me and my buddy came. We're both hunting dogs that I have in my kennel. With there being 7 dogs entered, there's going to be 2 casts. It's going to be the when they're drawing casts, they're going to put 1 on each cast.
Mm-hmm.
And I put a note in here. I don't get to choose which of my dogs goes on which cast. The person drawing the cast has to be a random draw. We don't get to pick and choose which cast our dogs are on. Now let's go to another one. Here I am, or let's just say same hunt. There's 4 dogs in the champion category, and 2 of them are yours. What in that instance, you don't make 2 casts. Under no circumstance do you make two dog casts.
We see that happen
to
sometimes
split it here
for some reason, but yeah, you don't do that.
With being 4 dogs, we know from our cast breakdown sheet that 4 dogs is 1 cast. Can't split it up into smaller casts just to satisfy you or to make you happy. If there's 4 dogs, there's 1 cast, regardless, and that just means that your 2 dogs have to hunt against each other.
Even if I have 3 dogs in it, doesn't matter.
Yeah, you could have the only 3 dogs, and you're just going to have your 3 dogs in there. You can't make more casts or heat than the entries necessitate. You know what I mean? So, so that's talking about that. I don't know. Do you have anything else to add in there about multiple entries, or is that we can pretty much covered that?
No, not really. Not other than that may be a time when clubs split that up or officials split it up. That is not by rule like that, like you mentioned, where the rules don't allow you to do that. That may be a time where we don't give those cast winners any wins.
Yeah, absolutely, and we've done it.
Yep, absolutely.
We've done it. The kind of the last part of our stuff here talking about entries is the right to refuse entry, and that's another one that can get a little sticky, and we get calls in from both sides sometimes.
Yeah, the other thing I think we should sometime do a podcast, or I would love to do something on entering dogs. There's different ways. Just a fair draw is a fair draw. You don't have to do it this way. We have it outlined in the rule book. This is a suggested way. Doesn't mean you have to do that. There's certain things that I feel like I have learned over the years. As you see sometimes for multiple entries, they put an X on the back or something. So when they're drawing them out, that they don't have, so those 2 X's don't land on the same card. Well, that kind of works if there's only one guy with multiple owners or with multiple dogs in the hunt.
Right.
But what if there's 2 or 3 or 4? Now you have a bunch of X's. Now you don't really know. And the other thing that I don't like about that is perception.
Yeah.
We talked about perception a couple of episodes ago. Here's another one with perception. Somebody's looking on, doesn't know what my little marks mean or whatever. They think, oh, he's just trying to, he's trying to fudge the draw here, fix the draw here a little bit. And you just get away from that. But the example that you gave was 7 dogs in there and you own 2 of them. Probably what I would do as an official, I would take your first 2 entries, just those 2, mix them up a little bit, throw 1 here and 1 here.
Yeah.
Now I know I do that before I put anything else on.
Right.
Just some little thing. Just be reasonable. Something that's fair,
Yeah.
So there's not a set way to do it, but
that can get a lot more difficult if you have 40 dogs in a class, maybe at a breed day or something. In that case, what we do oftentimes is draw them all out to cast, flip them over them, but don't stick them. And then just go through each card and make sure there's no multiple owners before you ever stick them. That way you can avoid that.
Yeah, and we do that a lot of times. We have an A dog in the A position, A, B, C, and D for 4 dogs. And let's say D and C are the same owner here. What we do is just take the next card over here and do the same thing. Just flip this bottom dog, flip it over with the D dog on the bottom of the next card. Yeah. Just some things like that. You don't have to go pull them all up and redraw everything.
Right.
Just something reasonable. Just be consistent with the way you're going to do it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about another topic, and that is the right to refuse entry. First off, I'll just read exactly what the rule book says, word for word here. It says, local club management has the right to refuse entry to any dog or handler. However, no handler shall be refused or barred on basis of religion, race, color, national origin, age, or gender. So it's pretty straightforward, and what it does is basically it gives the club the opportunity to refuse entry for a troublemaker.
Deal with their problem individuals that they've had. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a great thing for a club, a great tool for a club to have. Sometimes the clubs can fix some of those problems at their level without taking them to United Kennel Club or even filing complaints, just like, hey, it does a couple things. When clubs that do that, it does a couple things. Not only do they take care of their problems that they have or problem individuals per se, but their other participants also see that, and it kind of sets a
eye opener.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does. Hey, I'm going to have to conduct myself appropriately here. The club is going to take care of it, and maybe refuse my entry if I don't.
Yeah. A lot of those conversations that we have with people they're all really similar. That we have this one guy who every hunt he comes to, he's causing issues. Nobody wants to draw him. If they do draw him, they withdraw or they demand a non-hunting judge, or they flat when they see him there, they'll just turn around and go to the house.
Mm-hmm.
And what can we do? And that's whenever you want to use your right to refuse an entry there.
Yeah.
When he's starting to, he's harming the club now at this point. He's having an effect on the hunt. He's affecting your bottom line as a club, your ability to stay above water, and he's really having a toll on the club at that point. But we always give them. I've got this from you, and a couple recommendations that you always give to people, and I've started doing them on my own too. And the first thing, don't handle it at the next hunt that you have. Don't when you come up to the entry table and that's the first time you hear that I'm not accepting your entry anymore. That can cause a pretty big ruckus there and a scene for everybody. It's going to be not pleasant for anybody. It's not going to be comfortable. Nobody's going to be reasonable when they get angry like that. The thing to do is to get ahead of it and send out a letter, some written documentation that you can file away in your club paperwork, and the person knows well ahead of time of the event that, hey, they're not going to accept my entry. Maybe detail why you're not accepting his entry. And another thing is to give them a time frame where you're not accepting their entry. Maybe hey, we're not accepting your entry for the next 6 months. We have 4 events during the 6 months. We're not going to be accepting your entry for these 6 months. After that, hopefully, your attitude and outlook on things have changed, and you can come back to the club, and we'd be happy to have you.
Yeah. I think doing that it takes care of that thing that you mentioned, a problem, an individual comes there and now we have an issue, hey, why, and this and that. But yeah, send the letter and it's important to let them know why. If they don't, guess where the first place they're going to call is United Kennel Club. They want to get the club in trouble somehow. And you and I know how those conversations go. They're always generally very one-sided, hey, I didn't do anything. They have no reason, know. Let them know why. And the other thing, and the rule that you said, it does not make any mention of you having to do this. This is just what we suggest, and it's the best way to handle it. Number 2, the other thing that you mentioned is to give them a time frame. This rule also doesn't tell them that they have to give them a time frame. But what that does when you do it, it doesn't make you out to be the bad person. If it's like, hey, we're trying to correct this problem that we have, and after so much time, we are going to let you back in, and then the ball's in your court. And hopefully that fixed the problem. If not, there's going to be zero tolerance for it, and then maybe make it longer or for a year or 2 years or what have you, instead of just kind of taking the initiative that, hey, we're going to bar this guy for life.
Yeah.
Hey, it just makes the club look a whole heck of a lot better if you, I think, and the thing is, I don't have to like somebody. I don't necessarily have to be your buddy, or maybe I don't really care for you or your dogs. But that doesn't mean that you can't conduct yourself. As long as you conduct yourself appropriately, what's the problem? Shouldn't be a problem.
Sure. Yeah. And I always, before it ever gets to this level, maybe have you had a conversation with the person? I mean, I know there's some instances where the person is just completely unreasonable and you can't get through to them, but sometimes a phone call conversation, or maybe even we see them face to face and just pull them aside for a second, like, hey, man, we're getting a lot of complaints about you out there in the woods, and it's honestly, it's having an effect on our club. And you've been a member of our club now for how long? Maybe it's something, maybe you can really think hard about that, or we're going to have to take it to the next step, which is not accepting your entry. And maybe that might open their eyes a little bit.
Hey, that's a good point. I'm glad you bring it up, because that does work as well too. Maybe that's the first thing you do before you refuse their entry, And the other thing I would add on to that is, don't do it out in front of everybody. Do it in private with this individual. There's no sense in hanging the guy. It's just and oftentimes that works too.
Yeah.
And if not, then you take the other avenues.
Yeah. And the last thing, UKC, we don't, tell somebody to refuse your entry. We don't tell them otherwise. We don't have governing power over the clubs. We license their events. We approve their events. but we're not voting members of the club, and we don't put bylaws into place, and we don't decide who's going to be refused entry at the club and that sort of thing. When you have issues like that, you got to take it to the club. There's only so
Yeah.
much that we can do for
Yep.
you.
And one last thing I would like to add to that is that I would caution clubs is deal with folks that have made problems at your club.
Yeah.
Don't get involved when you get caught up in he said, she said about what happened here at this neighboring club, or they did this and that, and now you're going to refuse their entry because of that. Be careful with that. It can kind of come back and bite you a little bit. And like, okay, if I haven't made any, or you haven't made any trouble at our club, why am I refusing I don't govern that other club, or I'm not taking care of their issues. They should do that, not me. So that's the other thing I would suggest to consider staying away from that.
Alan, we both had Dogtra Pathfinder 2s now for a little while. What do you think about yours?
I'm liking mine. One of the things I had the opportunity to now download a map of an area where I did not have service, and I've used it there, and it has worked flawlessly. I love it.
Yeah, I love the crystal clear maps. I love that I never lose reception on my dog's collars anymore. Highly recommended by me as well. Dogtra Pathfinder 2, the official GPS collar partner of UKC.
Well, as we're sitting here today in the middle of May, we're almost exactly halfway through with our RQE processing at this point. Obviously, I say processing. We're obviously that's always a week or two behind, depending on when the reports get to us. But as we're sitting here right now, out of 178 RQE night hunts we have throughout the year, 90 of them have been processed as of me compiling this information.
Yeah, so that is about exactly halfway. End of August. The season ends the last weekend in August.
And I always kind of do a halfway point type of deal on the forums, and I make a post about it on social media. I just like seeing these kind of numbers and seeing how the first half of the year against the second half of the year and different things like that. And I just like looking at numbers, period. And I thought this might be interesting for some people to hear. So as of right now, out of 90 RQEs, night hunts that we've had this year, we've had a little over 1,800 entries, 1,819, and that comes out to roughly 20.2 dogs per RQE night hunt. As of this point, 407 hounds are qualified for the World of Hunt zones about halfway through. So that number is a little bit up from last year whenever the finals were in Tennessee. And we know when it goes on the outskirts of our boundaries that it's going to be a little lower than usual. But I'm pleased with 407 this year. Good jump from last year. And let's talk a little bit about some of our top performing qualifying events this year.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, we talk a lot about individual dogs and people, but let's shout out some individual clubs that are performing well.
A year or two after I started here back in the early 2000s, I guess I used to do that at the end of each year for clubs, the top 10 clubs, and that was a good thing. And really only kind of quit because they kind of took this one program away that I used to use for it. And but now again we have a better system in place to get all this information. So this is cool, and I loved giving props to clubs,
Absolutely.
and they like that too, and
Absolutely.
we should.
The number one night hunt RQE this year was the South Carolina State Coonhounds Association. They're Hall of Fame event there in Manning, South Carolina. They had 58 night hunt entries.
It's a great number. That happens in what, February? Was that in February?
Yeah,
February or March?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, it's the end of January. I think it's like January 27th, 28th. So it's a couple weeks before their state championship. So this isn't bound in with their state championship. That event's a couple weeks later, and it's actually hosted by the late Darpo Coon Hunters. South Carolina is a little different than other associations, but 58 entries.
That's good. That's really good.
Number two here, and one that's always near the top, is the all black RQE at the American Black and Tan Association. That event just happened in Mount Gilead, Ohio. They had 54 black and tans enter on Thursday night for RQE there.
And they had a lot more dogs than that enter today because they have like 3 different classes or 3 different events you can enter for on Thursday night. One is the RQE. There's a pup hunt.
There's all black, the pup hunt.
Yeah, a non-licensed dog, just a fun hunt. Yeah, so. But 54, and they're all black RQE.
Yeah, Ben Sheets from Tree Talk, he was down there taking our win pictures for us, and he was there was 6 first place dogs because there was some youth hunts too, and he was so I was like, I'll help you sort these out. There's so many first place dogs tonight. I'll help you sort this out.
Yeah, they do a good job with it.
They do.
They have a committee like for each one of those separate classes or hunts, so they do a good job.
Oh yeah, they have it figured out.
Yep.
Number 3 here with 47 entries is Ashland County Coonhunters Incorporated in Ashland, Ohio.
They've always had great numbers up there. It's kind of that's where you're going to see about as many blue ticks as anywhere in the country is right there in Ashland, right in that area. Just a lot of them up there, but good club.
Coming in number 4 here, Fulton County Coonhunters Association, 44 entries in Ladders Ford, Indiana.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, I asked you earlier today when that one was at the end of January as well. So this is in Indiana, central Indiana, just north of Indianapolis. And end of January, weather can be anything. But I think they actually we had a good break in the weather, and they just flocked out to that one. But not just that, but there's a point I want to make about Lighters Ford. I've seen good clubs over the years. We talk about that sometimes. Good clubs kind of fall off. And then you have other clubs that really pick it up. And I can tell you, Lighters Ford is one of those that in the last 5, 6, 7 years has really picked it up. Kudos to them.
Absolutely.
44 entries in their qualifier.
Coming in at 5th here with 39 entries is the Long Hollow Coonhunters Club in Somerset, Kentucky.
Yeah, I got to say something about this. I'm in southern Kentucky here about the year before last, I think. And I forget the town now. I forget the town now. I was at a Beagle event, and I'm cruising along this one highway there, and I see a sign for Long Hollow Coonhunters Club. And boom, I look over, there it is, just out in the field, just a narrow little clubhouse out there in the middle of nowhere. That's the Long Hollow Coonhunters Club, Somerset.
There we go.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, I recognize that name,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The only RQE in Kentucky so far. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, 39 entries. Good entry for it.
Number 6 here with 38 entries, Northeast Missouri Coonhunters Association. They're in northern Missouri, in Kirksville, Missouri. Yep. Number 7, Pickaway County Coonhunters Association in New Holland, Ohio. This is their first RQE. You got it to them this year, and 37 entries. They came through big with that. Got a couple here tied for 8th, each with 33 entries. That's the Lisbon Area Coonhunters Club in Lisbon, Ohio, and the Mid-Missouri Coonhunters Association in Fayette, Missouri.
Both have been great clubs for a lot of years. Old clubs.
And then a familiar club for you, I'm sure, with 32 entries here.
Yeah.
Whitley County Coonhunters Association in Columbia City.
Yeah, I might have a few pictures on the wall up there at that club. Yeah.
You
know what's really cool about this club, and nobody else thinks about this, but it's just from being out of it for so long. But you go into the clubhouse and they still have the big old white sheet up there with the club rules on it. That's something I wrote like 25 years ago, and it's still hanging there. They still use the same rules. That's just so cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Real quick here, the top 5 states in RQE night hunt entries. Number 1, Ohio. There's a lot of Ohio clubs on there that we just talked about in the top 10. Number 2, Indiana. Same, they had 2 or 3 there in the top 10. Missouri came in at 3. South Carolina 4th, and North Carolina 5th right now. So that's where we're sitting at halfway.
Yep.
A lot could change over the next 4 months, but that's where we're at the halfway point for the night hunts.
Yeah, glad to see those Carolina clubs be on the list here.
On the bench show side of things, we're almost exactly the same as the night hunts. Obviously, there are some night hunt only RQEs. There's some bench show only RQEs. Right now, we've processed 90 of the 179 scheduled RQE bench shows. Right now, 660 entries have been placed in the night hunts. That's an average of 7.4 per RQE bench show. And as we're sitting here right now, 349 hounds are currently qualified for the World Finals.
Yeah, that number could be a little skewed because those in the bench shows, a dog, even though already qualified, unlike the night hunt part, they can re-enter another qualifier.
Yep.
Just for wins or points or whatever. Yep.
And I'm looking at the number 1 here, and
so there's some duplicates in there.
That's right. Yeah, there will be multiples in there. That's right. Looking at the number 1 performing club here, and just overwhelmingly 37 entries. The next one is 21 here, but 37 entries, and this is at the Wayne County Coonhunters Association RQE bench show in Milton, Indiana. And this is a standalone bench show. They don't have a qualifying hunt that night. It's just a bench show. They do it there. They call it the Christmas Classic. It's right there around Christmas sometime.
Yeah, it's a good time to do it as well.
Yeah,
not a whole lot happening. They have a nice clubhouse there. It's right close to Autumn Oaks. They're around not far from Richmond.
Yeah. So great job to all the Wayne County Coonhunters. We've got to give Angie Cable some props. I'm sure she helps a lot with that on the Wayne County side. So number 2 club here, Shell Rock Coonhunters Association in Shell Rock, Iowa. 21 entries at their bench show this year.
Yeah, the Shell Rock has always been a great club. Ever since I've been here, they've always had good numbers up there in Iowa, and one of the better clubs up there for sure.
Yeah, they always have strong hunt and show entries both. They excel in both.
Good to see they still have that.
Number 3 here, one of the newer RQEs that we've have, Orange County Coonhounds Association in Rapidan, Virginia, 19 entries. Number 4, again, here is one that was just on the hunt list, Northeast Missouri Coonhounds Association in Kirksville, Missouri. They had 18 bench show entries. We have 3 here tied for 5th with 17 entries apiece. Mercer County Coonhunters Association in Greenville, Pennsylvania, Heart of Dixie Coonhunters in Ozark, Alabama, and the American Leopard Breeders Association. They had their event in Holmesville, Ohio this year, and that was a leopard-only RQE. 17 leopards entered. And then tied for 8th here, we have Appalachian Coonhunters in Beverly, West Virginia, 16 entries. And the American Black and Tan Association, obviously in Mount Gilead, Ohio, with 16 entries as well. And rounding out the top 10 is the Ashland, Ohio RQE show with 15 entries. So I'll be interested to see how many of these are left on there when we're done with the qualifying season.
Yeah.
But right now, our top 5 states in RQE bench show entries total. Again, the top 3 are unchanged: Ohio, Indiana, and Missouri. 4th is Virginia, and 5th is Iowa. So we'll see how that looks after we're all done with the qualifying season. So now we're going to go and we're going to continue talking about our Grand Champion Hall of Fame dogs. Here we are. There's 64 of them total. Obviously, we split them up a little bit because that would be a little tedious, and dogs will get lost in the shuffle when we're talking about them. This is a list that was compiled back on February 28th when we first did our first list, when we talked about the Black and Tans and the Leopards, and that was back on episode 44. If you want to go back and listen to that, if you were to miss it, we recently talked about the Blue Ticks on episode 51. So today we're going to talk about English Plots and Red Bones.
Sounds good.
We'll get started out with the English Coonhounds here. We have 9 of them that have achieved the Grand Champion Hall of Fame title. 5 males and 4 females, so almost a perfect breakdown here. And the first one we're going to mention is Grand Champion Hall of Fame Bear Branch Bobby Lou. This is a female English dog born in February of 2013, owned by Mike Seitz of Stone Fort, Illinois.
Yeah, that's a dog that Mike did a lot of winning with, and folks that have been showing in our shows for a good number of years will know this name. Bobby Lou won a lot of shows. She's off of Night Champion, Grand Champion Little Hoss, and the dam is Grand Champion Missy Joe, bred by Terry and Mary Jo Murray, with 45 Grand Champion wins total, earned this degree in May of 2020.
One of those who didn't get a lot of those wins at the local level. He's traveling around to the major events almost every week.
That's right. And she won a lot of major shows.
Second one on the list here, another dog you see a lot in some of our major events. Grand Field Champion, Grand Water Champion, Grand Champion Hall of Fame, tailor-made Mystic Fiddler HTX. This is a male born in August of 2014, owned by Lisa Watson of Harrodsburg, Kentucky.
Yeah, this dog is off of Lisa's male, Grand Champion, Grand Night Champion Taylor's Rasputin HTX, and is off of Confirmation Grand Champion PR Allen's Little Gold Magic. Now, Gold Magic was a dog that was also winning the annual series back in the day and did a lot of winning. Bred by Lisa Watson. 44 Grand Champion wins here for Fiddler, earned the degree in May of 2020.
The third English dog here is Grand Champion Hall of Fame Rolling Thunder Calico Patty. It's a female English born in May of 2012, owned by Neil Honey of Kennedy, New York.
Yeah, Neil is a guy that we don't see very often, but he's always at English days, it seems like. He's always at Autumn Oaks, and he's getting a little up there in age, but Calico Patty is one he's done quite a bit of winning with. At all those, at English days and Autumn Oaks, and obviously around his area there at all the clubs. But this dog is off of Grand Champion Lakeland's Rusty HTX, and the dam is Grand Champion Roland Thunder Hillbilly Dixie, bred by Mr. Neil Honey with 45 Grand Champion wins total, earned the degree in August of 2020.
Rolling right along here, we got Night Champion, Grand Champion Hall of Fame, Kentucky Mountain Let It Rain McCade. It's a male born in January of 2015, owned by Terry Jessup of Rural Hall, North Carolina.
Yeah, it seems like any show that I've announced, any of our bigger ones, whether it be Winter Classic or the World or somewhere, this dog was always in those shows. This dog is off a World Show Champion, Night Champion, Confirmation Champion, Grand Champion Hall of Fame, Kentucky Mountain Diamond Cutter, which we'll probably have him on this list, I guess, since we're talking about English dogs. That's the sire. The dam is Grand Champion Ozark Mountain Kentucky Ann, bred by Brianna Potash and Joseph Carlisle. 44 Grand Champion wins total, earned the degree in September of 2020.
Here's another one good here. I see this dog at a lot of events. Grand Champion Hall of Fame, Green Acres Roscoe Willie. It's a male born in February of 2013, owned by Alan Pfaff of Wayne City, Illinois.
Yeah, Willie is off of Night Champion, Grand Champion Little Hoss, and the dam is Grand Champion Missy Joe, bred by Terry and Mary Jo Murray. 50 Grand Champion wins total, earned the degree in March of 2022. So just here in this last year.
Litter
A year
mate
ago.
to the first dog there.
Yep, sure is.
Bobby Lou.
Bobby Lou, yep.
And here's the world champion you just mentioned just a second ago. World show champion, night champion, confirmation champion, grand champion, Hall of Fame, Kentucky Mountain Diamond Cutter. Is a male English born in April of 2011, owned by Penny Turner of Jackson, Kentucky.
Yeah, I remember this dog when it won the World Show there in LaGrange, Indiana, there, and out of confirmation champion, grand champion PR Kentucky Mountain Moonlight Diamond, and champion Kentucky Mountain Moonlight Chloe, which is both of those are Michigan dogs, bred by Penny Jessup and Sienna Spieth, and Sienna and her husband live here in Michigan. 40 grand champion wins total. Earned the degree in April of 2022 for Diamond Cutter.
And here's Fiddler's litter mate, looks like. Grand Champion Hall of Fame, tailor-made It's Magic Again. It's a female born in August of 2014, and again owned by Lisa Watson of Harrodsburg, Kentucky.
Yep, and the sire Taylor's Rasputin and Allen's Little Gold Magic that we talked about a minute ago, bred by Lisa Watson. 41 Grand Champion wins, earned the degree in June of 2022 for It's Magic Again.
Next one on our list here is Night Champion, Water Champion, Grand Champion Hall of Fame, Confirmation Champion, Down Creek's Blue Ranger. It's a male born in February of 2018, owned by Justin Hofstetter of Pleasant Hill, Missouri.
Yeah, this dog is off of a Night Champion Main Street Mr. Clutch, and the dam is Confirmation Champion, Field Champion, Grand Champion, Down Creek's Blue Heat, bred by John Pennington. This dog has 42 Grand Champion wins total, earned the degree in July of 2022.
And rounding out our English hounds, our 9 English hounds that have got the Grand Champion Hall of Fame title is Confirmation Champion, Grand Champion Hall of Fame, Jessup and Company, Our Girl Pearl. Female English, born in February of 2013, owned by Cindy Osenbaugh and Terry Jessup. Cindy's out of Genoa, Ohio.
Yep, another dog we've seen in the lineup a lot of times at all of our major shows. Dog is off of Moonlight Annihilator and Grand Champion Moonlight Dazzler, bred by Jason Spieth here in Michigan. 40 Grand Champion wins, earned the degree in July of 2022.
I knew Pearl made it. I remember Cindy coming up at Autumn Oaks when she was entering her into the show, and she was probably 9 years old at the time, and she was thinking probably didn't have much of a shot in the Grand Champion class there, but she wanted everybody to hear that Grand Champion Hall of Fame title. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Moving on to our plot hounds, we have 5 plot hounds. 1 male and 4 females is the breakdown. And the first plot hound to make Grand Champion Hall of Fame was Grand Champion Hall of Fame Allen's Tree Smoking Real Deal, a female born in November of 2010, owned by Alan Moore of Rivesville, West Virginia.
Yeah, this dog is sired by that's Grand Champion Allen's Tree Smoking Nitro, and the dam is Champion Allen's Tree Smoking Breeze, bred by Alan Moore. 56 Grand Champion wins total, earned the degree in May of 2015.
Always like seeing those bred by, owned by, handled by. It's a good job, Mr. Alan Moore.
Exactly.
Here's a familiar name for me. The past couple of years here, see this dog everywhere. Grand Champion Hall of Fame, J&K's Honky Tonk Queen, female plot, born in July of 2015, owned by Larry, Barbara, and Bobby Jenkins of Thornburg, Virginia.
Yeah, this dog is sired by Grand Champion Showbiz, Taking Care of Business, and Grand Champion 2 PR Showbiz. She's Honky Tonk Babe. She's a Honky Tonk Babe. Bred by LaDonna Williams. 42 Grand Champion wins total for this dog. Earned the degree in March of 2020 for Larry Jenkins' Honky Tonk Queen dog.
Next dog here, Grand Night Champion, Grand Champion Hall of Fame, Sourwood Mountain Pocahontas 3. Female, born in February of 2012, owned by Caleb Flowers of Pikeville, Tennessee.
Yeah, sired by Night Champion, Grand Champion Pocahontas Food Stamp, and is off of Grand Champion Sourwood's Pocahontas Sioux, bred by Jason Bigford. 41 Grand Champion wins total, earned the degree in October of 2020.
Fourth plot dog here is Field Champion, Water Champion, Confirmation Grand Champion, Grand Champion Hall of Fame, Bowser's Toby. Male, born in April of 2017, owned by Brian and Jessica Bowser of Green Cove Springs, Florida.
Yeah, we've seen Brian with this showing this dog a lot over the years, or I have in the last couple of years, anyways, I guess, and he's done very well with him. Obviously, he has all those other titles on the dog. It's not just showing the dog. Dogs in field trials and water races all the time. But this dog is sired by Conformation Champion, Grand Field Champion, Grand Water Champion, Grand Champion Bowser's Luke, and the dam is PR Penny May. That was bred by Julius and Prima Moss. 46 Grand Champion wins for this dog, earned it in July of 2021.
And rounding out our plots is Grand Champion Hall of Fame Allison's Steel Miracle. It's female, born in February of 2015, owned by Kay Allison of Old Fort, North Carolina.
Yeah, Kay Allison, the Allisons. If you know anything about the plots, they're a familiar name in the plot breed, and they are bear hunters for the most part. And they've had some outstanding dogs and some good-looking dogs. Here's Allison Steel Miracle, one of those, a Hall of Fame now, out of Grand Champion Suncrest, Standing on the Promise, and the dam is Conformation Champion, Grand Champion M&M Sideshow Keep the Faith, bred by Mr. Wayne Steele. 43 Grand Champion wins for this dog as of right now, earned the degree in May of 2022.
And then we have a couple redbone males, 2 redbone males that have made Grand Champion Hall of Fame. The first one, Conformation Champion, Grand Champion Hall of Fame, Wabash River Magic Mike, a male redbone born in June of 2015, owned by Libby Ann Lancaster, Ava Newcomb, and Charles and Eva Lancaster of Memphis, Nebraska.
Yeah, this dog is sired by Grand Champion Wabash River Buck Wild and is off of Grand Champion Wabash River Tropical Storm. That was bred by Nikki Elburn, just south of here in Peru, Indiana. 47 Grand Champion wins total for Magic Mike, earned a degree in June of 2021.
Yeah, Libby Ann and Eva, two young ladies who go to a lot of our youth events.
Yeah.
They have a lot of Spotlight Series points, and I'm sure they'll be in Elizabethtown at the Youth Nationals here in July, so maybe they'll have Mike there with them.
Yeah.
And rounding out our Redbone Grand Champion Hall of Fames are, oh boy, here we go.
Didn't we just on the last episode talk about a dog that had all these titles? This one may be between the two of them. Wow.
Kayla, I'll just go ahead and tell you, I did not do any studying, so I apologize.
Yeah.
UR01, AP2, VPA. I think this is United Weight Pool Champion, the UWPO, Grand Water Champion 2, Grand Field Champion 2, Night Champion, Grand Champion Hall of Fame, KNZ's Disaster in the Making, HTX. Mouthful. A male redbone born in January of 2011, owned by Kayla Cooper and Sean Quinn of Briarfield, Alabama. Yeah,
it's no question. This dog has a lot more talents than you and I combined here. But yeah, this dog is off of Conformation Grand Champion Anlin's Natural Disaster, and the dam is Grand Champion Firebrand's Red Hot Jade. Bred by Paige Renison and Chris Cottrell. 40 Grand Champion wins total for this dog, earned the degree in October of 2021.
I think Kayla and Misty Arrington and Lee Hogan, they just like to make sure our programmers are on their toes, figuring out how to put all these titles on the dog's name on their paperwork. Yeah. It has to be what they're doing.
Yeah.
But
you and I do good with the water race titles and the field trial titles.
Yeah, that's right. Well, hey, that's kind of a wrap on what we're talking about today. We only have one breed left to go through the Grand Champion Hall of Fame stuff, and that's the Walkers. I think there's 18 of those, so we'll get to those on one of our next Coonhound episodes whenever we're able to fit it in. And like we said, then we'll talk about them as we go, so we won't get too tied up on them, and we give each dog their due, and I think that's important.
Yeah, so some great topics today, and I really enjoyed talking about them, for sure.
Yeah, we sure hope you guys enjoyed them too, and hope you stick around with us. Keep listening to us. Let us know what you think about it, and we'll see you at the next event.
Thank you for listening to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast. Be sure to give us a follow so you don't miss any of our new episodes or content.